So the first and only item on the agenda this evening is Appeal Number 3156. The applicant, Corvalaria LLC, property owned at 365 Conestoga Road and zoned R1 residential. The applicant seeks a variance from Section 280-17C of the code to install a generator in the front yard. The proposed location of the generator is within the building envelope and does not violate any yard setback requirements. However, due to the corner lot, it will be located in the front yard of the home. The applicant seeks such other relief consistent with the exhibits and testimony presented at the hearing. Nick?
Thank you. Nick Cornelia representing the applicant. I'll go through a quick synopsis of what's being requested here. This is the property at the corner of Aberdeen and Conestoga, 5 Points. I think everyone's kind of familiar with 5 Points there. Is Ivan Avenue comes in this area here. It's the larger home that you probably have seen on occasion when, you know, in the wintertime, sometimes you can see it. Set way back deep in the lot in the northwest corner of the lot. Here is Aberdeen Avenue. Here's Conestoga Road. Here's the building envelope, and you see it's a rather large building envelope, basically because it has 2 front yard setbacks and the fact that the home is set fairly deep. The proposed location of the generators in this area, it's not in any setbacks. It's not within 10 feet of any setbacks. It's not in the front yard setback or any of the front yard setbacks, not in the rear yard setback, not in the side yard setback. My understanding of the zoning office interpretation of the code, which I don't necessarily agree with, is that since it's in the front of the home, even though it's not in the front yard setback, that we had to come here to seek zoning relief. As I mentioned, this, even if his interpretation is correct, we have 2 front yards. We have a house that's very far set back, and you'll see through the pictures and exhibits that there's really no feasible place to put it except in the building envelope and in front of the home, as is currently indicated on the plan. I have 2 witnesses. One is Raquel Edwards, who is a representative of the applicant. This is a residence. There's a husband and wife that lives there. It's just in the name of the LLC, which is common now. And also I have Jesse Forrester, who's a landscape architect, who will testify as to why it's being located in this direction, in this placement. But again, if you look at 280-17, it states if this is an accessory structure, I guess it's like an air conditioner. If it isn't considered an accessory structure, if it's attached to the principal building, must be part of the principal building. Obviously, it's not attached to the principal building. They're not proposing that it's attached. And even if it wasn't attached, it has to be 10 feet from the principal building, which it is. B of 280-17 says that it's permitted an accessory structure on the buildable area of a lot, but not attached to the principal building. In that case, it has to be 10 feet. It's in the buildable area of the lot. It is more than 10 feet from the principal building. C is also it can be located in the rear or side yard of the lot, provided it's no closer than 10 feet from the side or rear property line. It's further than 10 feet from the side or rear property line. It says air conditioning units must be at least 15 feet from any property line, and if it's considered an air conditioning unit, it's clearly more than 15 feet from any property line. But I'll go forward and present the testimony as required. Raquel?
If you will raise your right hand, I'll swear you in.
Oh, okay.
Swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
And state your full name and spell it for me.
Okay. My name is Raquel Edwards. It's RACQUEL and then EDWARDS.
And Raquel, you're here under a power of attorney, which is attached here too as Exhibit A2A. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're here as power of attorney for the managing member of the LLC. That's Emily Berger.
Yes.
And who lives in the residence?
Emily Berger and James McClave.
Is that her husband?
McClave, MCCLAVE.
And is that her husband?
Yes.
James? And the application that we're making here, this attaches A1, is for the installation of a generator for the residence. Is that correct?
Yes.
There is no generator currently serving this residence?
No.
Are you employed by Ms. Berger?
Yes.
And how are you employed?
I'm her personal assistant.
And is the only use of this house as a residence?
Correct. Yes.
And showing you what's been marked as A2, is that the deed to the property indicating that it was acquired in October of 2020?
Yes.
I'm going to show you the aerial photo. It's been marked as A3. As I mentioned during opening, here's Aberdeen Avenue. Correct, you can step forward, Raquel,
Yes.
if you can see it. Conestoga Road,
Yes.
and the home located in this area here.
Yes.
And behind the home, actually, in this area, is shown on A6, is another residence, correct?
Yes.
A separate residence, separate lot.
Yes.
And actually, where we are locating the generator, it is 186 feet from that rear property line.
Yes.
I'm going to show you A4. Is this lot heavily buffered?
No. What
I
do you-
mean, your lot.
Does-
There's
is there a
trees
lot?
lined.
Yes, there
yeah,
is. Correct.
yeah. I'll show you a picture. A4, is that a photograph from Aberdeen Avenue,
Yes, it is.
indicating looking into the lot? And A5, is that a photograph from Conestoga Road, looking into the lot?
Yes.
And A6, which is down here, you enlisted RKW, Robert Wager, to perform a survey for the property.
Yes.
And this is the survey that was presented to you, correct?
Correct.
That's all I have for Raquel. I have Jesse Forrester, who will testify a little bit further as to location of the generator.
Can you answer a question regarding the size of the generator, not just dimensionally, but also in how much power it generates, how many kilowatts or however it's measured, and the dimensions of it also.
Yeah, I can mark, John, I can mark a exhibit if you like. It's a Generac, and I can... A10?
I'm sorry, I didn't have my,
Yeah, is that...
that would be A10, and you're going to hand that up?
I am. A10. Yes. It is a larger generator just because of the size of the house. We're talking about, and actually I should ask Raquel one more question. Raquel, is the square footage of the house 10,000 square feet?
Yes.
And there's been no additions to it. This is how she bought it, correct?
Correct.
All right, Jesse. Good.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your full name and spell it.
Jesse Forrester, Jesseforrester.
Jesse, what's your profession?
I'm a landscape architect.
And how long have you been a landscape architect?
I've been licensed for 16 years.
And you're registered in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
Correct.
And actually, you've been working, as you said, for, I believe, various firms, and you recently went on your own?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as A6, and this is the site plan. And we're talking about a lot that's approximately a little over 2 acres.
Yes.
Would that be accurate? Actually, I believe there's an error in the zoning regulations. It's actually zoned R1, this area. It shows it as R2, even though it gives a lot, minimum lot area as 1 acre, which is the requirement. But it is zoned, it's an R1 zoning district. And When was the house constructed, approximately?
1900, I believe.
Okay, so before zoning occurred in Radnor Township, at least. Yeah, okay,
I
all right.
believe so.
I'm sorry, your answer?
I believe that is correct, yeah.
Just try and speak towards me.
Oh, okay, yes.
The size of the home, approximately?
Oh, you know what? I need my notes.
You want-
Yeah.
Well, I would ask you, is the size of the home, this is from the county records, approximately 10,405 square feet?
That is correct, yes.
And as we mentioned, it is located at the intersection of South Aberdeen and Conestoga.
Yes, correct.
And as a result, has two front yards that we talked about before.
Yes.
And as far as the setback or the placement of the home, where is the home placed on the property?
It is set in the northwest corner of the property, about 110 feet from Conestoga Road and 175 feet from Aberdeen.
And also, how about from the rear property line? How many feet is it from the rear property line? Right here.
Let's see. Oh, the generators, that's 186 from the rear.
I'm
property
sorry,
line.
the generator is located at 186?
Yes.
Okay. And how far is the generator located from Aberdeen Avenue?
161 feet,
And from the right-of-way of Conestoga Road?
66 feet.
And how far from the side property line? This property line to the, I guess would be to the north.
195 feet.
The generator is not attached to the building.
That's correct.
Is a generator located within the buildable area of the lot?
It is, yes.
And it is separated from the home by at least 10 feet?
Yes,
It's more than 10 feet from any side or rear property line?
correct.
And it's more than 15 feet, actually, from any property line as well, correct?
Yes, correct.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as A7. Was this a plan prepared by you?
Yes, it is.
And this shows the home and the location of the proposed generator?
Yes, that in red, this in red here.
And is there a reason why it's located, the generator is located in this area here?
Yes, because the far northwest corner of the property is basically occupied by mature trees and a parking area, and is also on the opposite side of the building from where all of the electrical and gas hookups would be. It's not really a feasible location for a generator. So we looked for a site that was already naturally buffered. Because of the nature of Conestoga Road and the amount of traffic on that road, there's already pretty heavy buffering happening all throughout here. So it's about as close as you could get to the back of the property as you might imagine, despite the fact that it is technically considered the front.
And is this the area that's basically least obtrusive to any of the surrounding neighbors?
Yes, yeah, it's buffered very heavily from Conestoga Road, so as a result, it's really well buffered from all of the neighbors and fairly well buffered or easy to integrate into the buffering for the main house, too.
I'm going to show you several pictures here. Okay. We'll
fit them
try
all.
to, yeah, I don't know if we're going to fit, there you go, maybe.
We can sort of
Okay. So actually, one parking area west, that corresponds to what you have one up there, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And up in that area, which is one of the areas that if it was, that would be behind the home and outside the setbacks, there's another home in close location to there, is that correct?
Correct, yeah, that's what we see here. And this box, the aerial that I used did not yet have that home yet, but just this rectangle indicates the location of that home. So very close to the rear corner of the yard or of the property.
And as you mentioned, this is going to be a gas run generator,
That is correct, yes.
and the hookup for the gas is on the side facing Conestoga Road.
That is correct.
Showing you A2. This is, can you describe A2 in this area? And that's a photo of it. And is that the primary entrance for the home?
That is, yeah, that's correct.
And it's opposite where the hookups would be.
That is correct.
3, is there, you have 3, and it appears as if you have formal gardens in that area there?
That's correct. There are formal gardens that pre-existed, or that they existed at the time that the homeowner bought the property. So some historic value, I would say.
And it's also on the other side.
That's correct.
utilities. A4,
4 is the
number 4, I mean, the
Yeah.
rear driveway, indicating in this area is a paved area.
that's a paved area, and there are existing boulder and retaining walls on either side, which restrict that space as well.
And it's also close to that nearest neighbor's home as
That's
well.
correct.
Number 5, which is this area, in this area, plaza area there.
Yeah, I've listed it as entrance/visitor parking. It's sort of it's really a kind of a formal paved courtyard entrance to the space.
And actually, picture number 6 of A8 has a good view of a portion of the home and the front yard there. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
That's all I have at this time.
It looks to me like this lot could be subdivided once again. It was subdivided years ago on the Aberdeen Avenue side. And the location you're proposing would put this very close to what I imagine would be the property line. And you're talking about this being a good location because of the meter and the gas, but you're 120 feet or so. I doubt if it's 120 feet to the back of the house from,
Now, here you go. Well, it's 186 to the rear property line.
pardon me?
It's 186 feet to the rear property line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 120 feet, what are you referring to?
Well, I'm just scaling that off. You
Yeah.
have a 60-foot dimension over here, and you use that as your marker, and you go from the generator up to the house.
Oh,
with
oh,
the
I see. How
meters are.
far?
It's a
about
pretty,
120
yeah, it's
feet.
still a pretty long run. Yeah. Although it's, I mean, I think relative to, say, if we were in the far corner of the property, needing to find a way all the way around the house,
John, I can.
it's more convenient relative to that, for
It's
sure.
not necessary.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out
Yeah.
that I think that particular argument's specious. I do,
It's 60 feet, John.
yeah, we're being asked really to give you a variance so you can be in the front yard. Since it's a corner property, you have 2 front yards. We're not really, at least I don't believe we're approving the location, are we? We're just approving front yard.
I think, John, normally, the way Gus writes the opinions, in strict accordance with the plans of testimony presented at the hearing.
Could you put your mic on?
Any approval would be conditional on the plans that you've been presented with, which show the location
Okay.
of the generator.
All right. Yeah, that's all I have.
I assume that the witness is the appropriate person to answer this question. On the site plan, Exhibit A6, there appears existing concrete pad. Any idea of what that is doing there?
Yes. So prior to my involvement on this property, there was a plan to put a generator in that particular location. And we had discussions about whether or not that was the best spot for it from the homeowner's perspective. And the homeowner's main office when she is working from home is right here, sort of overlooking that space. So we moved the site.
The real reason we moved it was in the front yard setback, and I didn't want to.
Well, that was a
When I
confounding
saw the
factor.
plan, I said,
Aesthetics
no,
aside."
we can't do that. We got to put it somewhere else, because we did not, even though perhaps, if you look at the ordinance, it would be permitted in that location, I didn't want to go there. I just felt it's just as easy to move it out of the front yard setback.
And they've handed up a 10, which is the specs for the generator. But this covers generators that go from 25 kilowatts all the way up to 60. So we don't have anything on the record as to what size you're.
Sure. Yeah, because of the size of the home. Go ahead, Jesse.
Well,
Go ahead.
I believe it's the 60 kilowatt generator is what we're using. Raquel, I don't know if you can confirm that. Yeah.
Okay, 60 kilowatts, is that what it's going to be, the largest generator that's in the spec plan that you handed up as A10.
Yeah, we have to, they're trying, Raquel, perhaps you could testify. Raquel, this generator is going to service the entire home, correct?
Correct.
So it's going to service the electricity, the gas for the entire home that would service it if there was an outage.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's 10,000, I don't know, well,
No field engineering, okay? So, looking at A7, the overhead shot, and specifically at item 6, which is defined as primary outdoor space. Well, nonetheless, is there any reason why the generator couldn't be located on that side of the structure? Properly situated, several, more than 10 or 15 feet off or away from as it's supposed to be. Is there any reason why the generator can't be placed there?
on this side, John?
You're talking about this space.
See on the overhead says number 6, and
number
that's
6.
entitled Primary Outdoor Space, and as a picture, number 6 of the pictures, which are A8. Okay? So I'm asking, why can't the generator be placed there?
From the homeowner's perspective,
Well,
that's really the main terrace. There's also a drawback in
It's
that
a what? It's a what?
this is a primary terrace space. So if there's a front yard or a front porch, then this is really that in the way that it functions on the property.
and John, I think we would have to run it under the house too, or somehow get it to the hookup over on the other side of the home.
But we don't have that in front of us because it looks like it takes a nice lazy loop to get down to its proposed location.
This home here?
Well, the proposed location, if the dotted lines are where the electrical
Oh, I
and
see.
gg's hookup's going to go, it's
You mean
taking
you're
a nice leisurely route to get there. It's probably not much different than putting it over on across from number 6. I don't suggest that it has to be right on top of number 6, but at least on that side.
That should be 40. Yeah, try 40.
I mean, is one of the motivations for the location to get the noisy generator away from the house?
This is, to call it noisy, for as large as it is a relatively quiet generator. It's compared.
Let's talk a little bit about it. I know that,
Yeah.
so we looked into this. First, this is the state-of-the-art generator. This is the
Yeah.
newest model, yeah, obviously. Now, we looked into decibel levels, correct?
Right.
And I believe in the specs, it does talk about a decibel level at the generator. And I believe it says 72 decibels.
Yes.
I have,
That's what I recall anyway, yeah.
I'll hand up to the board mark of B811.
Nick, the reason I asked that question is, as you know, we are supposed to grant the smallest amount
Right.
of exception. And to me, I wouldn't want the generator right next to my house personally, but understanding that motivation, I think, is important to determining the degree of relief.
I'm sorry, John, I didn't hear the last part.
Understanding the motivation, to me, is important to think about
Sure.
how much relief.
I understand.
To answer your question directly, this location is, from the homeowner's perspective, for what it's worth, probably the most intrusive spot it could be, visually and in terms of whatever noise pollution it creates. Because this is one of their primary spaces for use. So it would really create a detriment to what was one of the reasons that they found this property attractive in the first place. So knowing that Conestoga Road is something that needs to be visually buffered and that already generates a fair amount of noise just by the nature of the traffic there, it felt natural to locate the generator in that vicinity as well.
I'm going to hand up what's been marked as A11. This is level of noise in decibels, and it's actually by the American Academy of Audiology, and gives an example. I think we've all seen that. There's examples of noise levels. In this instance, at the generator, it is 72 decibels. That's the high, and if you look at
That's
it,
on page 4 of A10.
and we're using the highest one. We're using the, it talks about, the largest generator and the sound emissions. And it says at operating normal load 72. During the testing, it's only 65, I guess, when they test them every so often. But I'll hand up.
Thanks.
And now remember, as we mentioned, that this is 72 at the generator. And we all know that sound dissipates as it moves further away. Have you looked at that, Jesse, as to what the sound levels would be as you move away from the generator and to the property lines themselves?
I have, yes.
And what have you determined?
There would be a drop of about 40 decibels to, I measured this to the nearest neighboring property. So the front of the nearest neighboring house, which is across the street on Conestoga Road. And there would be a drop of about 40 decibels from the 72 original at the
Drop
base.
of 40 or drop to 40?
It will drop a total of 40. So 70 down to 30.
Okay. And noticing, at least on the level of noise chart, it talks about soft and under soft. Again, this is from the American Academy of Audiology, so you would think it would be a pretty conservative group. It talks at that level, a quiet library or a whisper would be the sound you would have at the property line.
So is the, I don't see any elevations on anything here, but looking again at A7, where the proposed location is that downhill of, excuse me, is that downhill at a lower elevation, that is, than the, what has been termed the primary outdoor space?
It is downhill.
Yeah.
It's downhill of that space, yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have right now, thanks.
Actually, no, I do have questions. So aside from monthly testing of the generator, this generator will only be operating in points of time at which the standard power is off.
Correct. I
So
mean, I
it's
guess Raquel could
in terms of
testify to that.
how frequently it will be
Right.
making this noise, other than when it's tested. How long do the test cycles run?
I know from generators around my house, I think they normally test them in the afternoon once a week. I don't know, Raquel, could you?
We would do it.
Go ahead, you're gonna have to use it.
Yes, it would be tested like once a week, I believe it runs. And we would do it probably around like 2 o'clock.
And then obviously it would operate when the power is out. Okay, thank
Correct.
you.
And this is a grove of trees where, for this proposed location, did I understand that to be the testimony?
Yes, it's right on the edge of a grove of trees. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was one of the other reasons for the location is certainly buffered from everybody being in that location.
Question, is there even a neighbor within 200 feet?
No,
No, I didn't think so.
yeah.
Any other questions? Public comment? I don't hear any public comment. Do you want to move your exhibits?
Yeah, I'd like to move them into the record, and I'm waiting for John's questions, I think.
Yeah, so this goes more to argument. The reason that you're not making a by right argument, I suspect, is because of the two attachments of this generator to wherever it's going to attach to the gas meter and the electrical meter?
If you look at the ordinance, and I've looked at it several times, and I have a dickens of a time determining why this is not permitted by right. Because it gives you items as to where it could be located. And you can't locate it at all the items that are listed here. So it says it can be attached to a principal building, in which case thou shalt be part of the principal building. That makes sense. Principal building is in the building envelope. B, on the buildable area of a lot, but not attached, in which case it should be separated by 10 feet. It is in the buildable area of the lot. It's not attached. It's separated from the principal building by 10 feet. Then it says it can be located in the rear or side yard of the lot. And then it can't be closer than 10 feet from the rear or side yard. That's for an accessory building. Then it talks about an air conditioning unit, and if you want to consider this an air conditioning unit, it has to be 15 feet. And both of them are in compliance. You can't have all of these as one. These are the areas, these 4 different areas where they can be located. So that's where I have a problem with the interpretation that we cannot be in front of the house, particularly when we are not in the front yard setback. And the only definition of front yard in the ordinance refers to front yard setbacks, under the definition section.
Yeah, but Section B, and frankly, I was struck by the language of Section B. It's located in the buildable area. Is it attached to the house? Well, there's a gas line and there's an electrical line, and is that what's meant by? It's not a breezeway. It's not a passageway to another structure. I think it's a stretch to argue that it's attached to the house in the way that I think a fair reading of that concept should be applied. And it's obviously separated from the principal building by 10 feet. So well, we can talk about that, but it's, I think, an interesting argument.
And to be perfectly honest, if the board grants this, we don't care if you say it's by variance, by right, or whatever, because we're going to put it where we're indicating it's going to be placed.
Yeah, I think you have more of an issue on hardship, so I'd favor by right, but that's just me.
Once again, any public comment? Okay, there's no public comment. Board discussion?
We need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. Can I hear a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I propose that the applicant be granted okay, I'll do it this way. I move that the applicant be granted relief under 280-17C to place the requested generator in the location reflected on the plans and consistent with the testimony presented here.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, board discussion?
Yeah, I'm in opposition of the motion because I think this is a by right. I don't think they need a variance. And I think the language in B makes clear that they don't need a variance. So I'm going to oppose my own motion as it being unnecessary as opposed to being wrong-headed, although it probably.
Well, that brings up the question, since our zoning officer said that they need a variance, and that's what they've come here to ask for, can we rewrite their application?
I do put in here that, or any other relief consistent with the plans, exhibits, and testimony presented at the zoning hearing. The last sentence of the application. And
I would suggest that your language is additive as opposed to replacing one source of relief for another, but go ahead.
Also, just like when you see divergent opinions from the appellate courts, you can, if one person approves it under one theory and three others approve it under another theory, it still gets approved, even though they may have divergent theories. It's kind of a concurring opinion, I guess, under different theories. So I would also say John may vote against his motion, but he also can vote in favor of it as by right.
Is there a motion that it is,
That's why I had trouble constructing the motion. I made a motion to grant a variance as requested in the application. And now I'm opposing the motion simply because I don't think they need a variance. But further board discussion
well, we
should
have a
follow.
second, so Gus, are we required to vote on this at this point?
Well, we finished board discussion.
Yeah, I mean, if it's been moved and seconded, so there has to be a vote one way or the other, up or down.
Or you withdraw.
Or withdraw the motion, but.
Okay. John, would you care to withdraw the motion?
I think there may be different views on the board, so perhaps we should hear them.
Well, I'm struggling with the hardship issue. Right now, the only hardship seems to be, I don't want to hear the noise. Personally, if it was my house, I would have no problem with having it right up by where the meters are. These things aren't that noisy and they don't run that often. So that's the part I'm struggling with. The front yard setback, because it's a corner property, I completely understand having a corner property. And I'm sympathetic to that. But like I said, I'm struggling.
Can you fill us in on the instructions coming from the zoning officer that put you here today?
Yeah, Kevin states that since it's in front of the building, either here or here, so we couldn't put it here, anywhere in here, we couldn't put it, and anywhere here, we could not put it. He said because it's in front of the building. Now, there's nothing in the code that says it can't be located that it cannot be located in front of a building, because the only definition of front in the code talks about the front yard setback, which is here. And it's not located in the front yard setback. As I mentioned, when I saw that it was in the front yard setback, I said, we got to take it out of there, because I believe that would need relief. So that's why we placed it in that area. Also, you have an area here that's really heavily buffered. We're trying to keep it away from neighbors as far as we can. And you're right, John, we're trying to keep it to some extent away from the home as well. And we're trying to keep it in a buffered area that, no one has to see.
So you were instructed by our zoning officer, just to be clear, to
Come
apply
here.
for this permit, to apply for this zoning ordinance in 17C.
Yep,
Okay, thanks.
yep.
Well, I think that, I think I see what you're trying to achieve. And I am persuaded by Nick's argument and listening to John that I think that the fairer and better thing to do is to find that this would be by right, regardless. I'm just more concerned about what we have a motion pending. I think I'm going to call on a vote and see where everybody is. I think I just did ask that, didn't I? Didn't I just ask you if you want to withdraw your motion? I think I got.
Well, I didn't know where the other members of the board were on the motion. I'm happy to withdraw the motion, and perhaps someone could offer another one.
Second
I'm sorry,
agrees,
What are
yeah.
you saying? I said she agrees. Okay, so just so the record's clear, the member who seconded the motion also agrees with the withdrawal. So we're back to square one.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the applicant be permitted to proceed with the location of the generator described in its application. Again, consistent with the plans and testimony presented here, on the basis that a variance is not required under the code.
Second?
I'll second.
Board discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote in favor. So it's 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, there doesn't seem to be any more, I'm sorry, I see somebody raising their hand. Sure.
Well, we have public comments on cases. We don't have public comments generally.
Yeah.
Come on, Roberta. I'm just making it difficult.
And state your full name, please. Roberta Winters, like the season of the next. I was pleased to see you ask for public comment during your event this evening, and I was wondering, I understood there were some questions about people making public comments at other times because they didn't have standing, and I know that's been an issue that I've experienced as a league member as well. So I'm just wondering how you determine standing, so that's clear, so people are not disappointed in the future.
We'll toss that one to our counsel.
Fortunately or unfortunately, as the solicitor for the board, I can't give the public any kind of legal advice. I advise the board, and any opinions that I provide to them are confidential with respect to the board. There are legal standards that are in case law. It's not as simple as you might think. It's obviously one variable is your location to the property, and generally also, do you stand in a unique position to the general public? It has to be something unique to you. But there's many more variables that go into that. So I don't want to be viewed as either myself as solicitor or certainly not on behalf of the board providing anyone with any type of legal advice as to what definitively provides someone with standing. It's a little bit of a complex legal standard that, as our rules, as this board's rules suggest to every applicant that they should seek legal counsel whenever they're presenting something to this board, and that's just one of the small reasons why they should do that. So hopefully that gives some guidance.
And just an observation purely of my own, not speaking for the board, not speaking for our solicitor. You know, there are rules as to persons that need to receive notice, for instance, of a proposed variance. And those folks may have a better argument that it's appropriate that they have standing than simply a resident of the township that's not within the immediate geographic area of the property in question. But that's, again, just a general observation.
Would you mind if I summarize it so my understanding is clear?
That would
I
be
don't
your
think-
summary.
No,
Okay.
we're not going to do that.
I would not do that because I don't want the
no.
legal record.
No.
But thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Roberta.